I will call to order the Judiciary Committee meeting for September 10th, 2025, 7 p.m. in the courthouse. Roll call present are Michelle Shea, Hattie Thatcher, Dan Callahan, Trudy Healy, and Bill Anderson. Absent tonight and excused is Commissioner Eric Mankins. Item number 1, communication number 2025-310, Matt Enruth, Butte-Silver County Attorney, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for the County Attorney's Office to draft a new ordinance regulating the sale and distribution of medical and recreational marijuana in Butte-Silver County. We have Deputy County Attorney Shea here tonight. Is there a report on this one that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of any report at this point, so.
Thank you. So I would entertain a motion so we can continue to hold this.
Motion to hold communication number 2025-310 in abeyance.
There's a motion and a second to hold communication 2025-310 in abeyance. Anything on the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to switch up the order here just so we can be a little bit more efficient. Item number 3, resolution number 2025-31, a resolution of intent to alter the boundaries of the city county of Butte-Silver, Montana's solid waste special district to include the boundaries of Homestake Meadows 2 subdivision and providing for an effective date herein. Deputy County Attorney Shea, do you have anything on this one?
I do not.
I did speak to Budget Director Hassler earlier, and do you want to speak? Thank you.
Go here for a quick minute. Thank you, Chairman Shea. The protest deadline was August 25th for the expansion of the solid waste collection district to include Homestake Meadows 2 subdivision. As of August 25th, the clerk and recorder did not receive any protests back from the 57 properties that are included in this expansion. And I just have a sheet here for you that shows that.
Okay, thank you very much. I will add this to the materials for the meeting. So it sounds like we could move this resolution to final reading.
I'd like to make a motion to move resolution number 2025-31 to final reading.
There's a motion and a second to move resolution number 2025-31 to final reading. Is there anything on the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We have one claim tonight, Casey Johnston, in the amount of $35, which is a refund of a variance that's no longer needed per the planning director.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
There's a motion and a second to approve the claims as presented. Anything on the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Communication number 2025-374, Trudy Healy, Commissioner District 8, requesting Council of Commissioners to look into concerns regarding urban camping on public streets and refer this matter to the Judiciary Committee and County Attorney Enruth to develop an ordinance to address this matter. Commissioner Healy, do you have an update? Did you come up with some ideas for the ordinance? You got a mic.
So I'm going to start with this. As elected officials, we have a responsibility to protect our citizens, their children, and their homes and businesses from the increasing challenges posed by unauthorized camping. I am asking that we move forward with clear protections: no camping in front of citizens' homes, no camping in city parks, no camping in front of schools, no camping in front of businesses. There is plenty of land in the surrounding area where camping could be better managed. What we need are clear and concise ordinances that strike a balance, providing appropriate alternatives without compromising the safety and quality of life in our neighborhoods. I have reached out to County Attorney Enruth to review the legal details, but today I want to make it clear: our citizens deserve action, and they deserve it now. County Attorney Enruth did tell me, he did email me back, he does want to have a meeting, and he did state that he would be gone this week. So we are setting up a meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Healy. I assume the Judiciary Committee will be invited to that meeting and
Yes.
be publicly noticed?
Yes.
So are you calling for a special meeting?
Today, well, first I got to talk to Henry when
Okay.
he gets back.
Okay, thank you. I had asked Parks and Rec Director Sean Frederickson to be here since his name came up at the last meeting. So thank you, Director Frederickson, for being here.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Thanks for having
sounds like your staff helped move out a camp out of Father Sheehan Park fairly recently. Can you tell me how often that happens, or give me a little detail around that removal?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Shea and committee members. For the record, I'm Sean Frederickson, Parks and Recreation Director. So we've had to we've had to clear out a couple different camps. Basically, it was the same one, and we cleared it out probably sometime after the 4th of July, and then within a month, it had grown rather large, way larger than I thought it was. And so we went down and cleared it out, and well, I had a citizen reach out to me. That was on Thursday, and I can get the dates to you exactly, but we had moved pretty quickly and had it cleared out by Tuesday. That camp in particular was one of the largest ones that we've ever had to clear out from asking the parks crews. It was on both sides of the Blacktail Creek. It had a barrier between the walking trail and the creek. There was some elaborate bells to prevent people from, going in there. And so the Parks Department has a garbage truck, so we brought the garbage truck in. There was only a couple people still in that camp when we arrived, and they quickly left. And we spent the rest of the day clearing out that camp on that one site. While we were there, we had gotten word that there was another camp farther down on the trail, and where you go over the convergence tunnel where Basin Creek comes in through the mall, and then it does a 90-degree turn right into Blacktail Creek. We went over that, and my associate Ed Hurd and I, there was a camp there, not as large. It was a fairly large tent and a two-person tent, and the campers were still there. We asked them to get up, talk to them. They were very nice, and said that they would be out of there. We told them to get all of their personal items out of there by the end of the day. And so the next day, we spent about 2 hours on that camp. And just to go back to the other one, the willows are so thick in there. I think that's the reason it got so big. When we finally got it all cleared out, and most of it was garbage, we didn't pick up any needles or anything like that. It was just, unfortunately, a lot of garbage. And but the willows down there are so thick. So that's kind of where we're at on that one. Really, we've only had to clear out 3 down at Father Sheehan the whole year, and that's pretty typical for our department. Kind of our process is we either get notified of the camp or our crew members see the camp, and we immediately go ask them to leave and tell them that they're on Parks property. Parks employees do not have enforcement capabilities. They're laborers and teamsters, so we can't issue a ticket. And if we can't get them to leave, then we call the proper authorities, which the previous one that we cleared out earlier in the summer, we did work with law enforcement on that camp. But typically, if it's Father Sheehan's the main one with all the willows and the cover. We do have camping at Emma Park of course. But when our crews go in the morning, we ask them to leave, and they leave. Most of the time, I would say almost all the time, they're really respectful and leave when we ask them to.
Okay. Thank you. So what I'm hearing is you're using the existing regulation to ask people to leave the parks because they can't camp there.
Yeah, Chair Shea, thank you. So there's no camping at parks past 10 p.m. And we ask people, if you see someone down there camped at 10 p.m., well, most of the parks have gates, and so no one should be in there at 10 driving around. We recently just put a gate in at Father Sheehan Park. That has really helped with nighttime activity there. And so we have a gate at Foreman Park, Father Sheehan, Stodden, and Copper Mountain. So those gates get locked at dusk. We have a night watchman who goes to locks the gate every night at dusk, drives through the park, makes sure that no one is in there, and no one's parked, no one's hanging out. If they are, they ask them to leave. I've never heard a complaint of someone saying, "No, I'm staying." They all leave, and then they lock the gate, and the gate gets opened in the morning when my crews show up at 6.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm wondering if, Sheriff Lester, if you wouldn't mind coming up and helping us understand the process and the ordinances that you currently enforce regarding unauthorized camping.
So the parks, like the director said, that's what we do with the parks. If they need assistance with us moving people out of the parks, we respond and do that. Most of our issues are not these camps. By and large, they're issues with homeless folks, not necessarily camping, but causing an issue in the street, or they're panhandling, or they're doing something that the public doesn't approve of, and that's when we get the calls. But by and large, the camping issues come to us with people parked on streets with a motorhome or a trailer or something like that, or they're in somebody's yard and the neighbor calls and says, "This guy's been in the yard for a couple months," and you know, it's either the sewage issue or then it's the health department that gets involved or something like that. Those are the issues we deal with for the most part. We certainly work with the parks folks. We did Friday, we worked with the parks folks on another issue with homeless in the tunnel near the Civic Center. Those are not uncommon to have folks camped out in those either, and so that was a camping type issue where they were actually on the walkway under the tunnel.
Okay. You had said that you have issues with, occasionally with homeless people causing issues in the street, or?
Yeah, so you get people who are homeless or having a mental health issue, and then they're intoxicated, or they're out in the street, or they're restricting egress to a business, or one of those type of situations. We do have a fair amount of those. We do have some folks that gather in the parking garage, and we ask them to leave, and they generally don't stay either. But you end up with you're pushing them from one location to another location to another location, and that's basically what we try to do. But until we get a call again on them at the same location or at the next location they move to, we usually, once they move on, we don't mess with them too much more than we have to, because by and large there isn't any law against being homeless. There's no law against being not having any money. Or indigent, so those are hard things to enforce, and those are the things that we deal with a lot, though, those kind of calls where people are nuisance type issues.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever get a nuisance call on someone that lives in a house?
We get calls. We recently had an issue on one where there was no plumbing and no water in the house. Those kind of issues come up periodically where we deal with not so much the parks, but the health department, yes.
What about people like me that might have a stable job in a house, Do they cause nuisances?
We have a fair, not you personally,
Present
but we
company
have,
excluded.
we do have a fair amount of folks who are employed and do have houses that cause problems too, yes.
And the same rules apply
Yes.
to them as well, okay. And I guess, you know, I have a lot of exposure to the community resources that are available and also the lack of community resources that are available. How do you feel that that impacts the situation and the ability for people to find housing, get medical care, all of the things that,
Well,
that
the
people are
housing
faced
is a
with?
huge issue now with the affordability. Those folks that are indigent are not going to be able to rent an apartment. If you look at the history of this situation, that's gotten significantly worse since 2017, when case management was the philosophy that was being used by the state, where they would pay people to, specifically mentally ill or people who are with drug addiction or alcohol addiction issues, they would have case management. So they if they had an apartment, they would go to their apartment, make sure that they paid their monthly bill, they took their prescription medication, they got groceries, and if there was any issues with the neighbors or whatever, they would kind of mediate those things for us. In 2017, the legislature took the money that was spent on case management and removed that. So in Butte-Silver, we had about 400 people who were using that service, case management. So not all of those folks failed, but many of them did because they didn't pay their bills for their apartment. They didn't get groceries. They didn't take their medications as they were prescribed, or they didn't purchase their medications, and then it leads to a self-medicating with fentanyl or alcohol or whatever. And then a lot of those folks that were doing okay under case management weren't able to function after that, and eventually they ended up in a situation where they were homeless or indigent, and that's one of the things that we did see a significant spike in those kind of issues with both chemically dependent people or mentally ill, as well as obviously most of the time there's all co-occurring.
Yeah, thank you. Do you know, let's just say in the last 6 months, how many times law enforcement's been dispatched to somebody who was spent the night in front of a school?
I don't have a number on that. I don't recall anybody spending any time in front of a school, though, not that I can recall.
Okay. And then how about calls in front of homes? I know that probably does happen.
We have had that, and especially in the Emma Park area where there are people, there are issues in the park, and then in front of some residences there where people were staying waiting for the Action Inc. is there, and so they wait there. That's where their real link to any resources is. So they stay in that area in camp trailers and those kind of issues. We have had people in cars and trailers in that Emma Park area, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Healy is working on solutions, I think you said, about preventing camping in front of, or unauthorized camping in front of residences. If the council were to enact an ordinance like that, where do you think people would go?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know where they'd go, but I'm sure there would be an issue wherever they all ended up. I know Missoula tried to designate a camping area for homeless and indigent folks somewhere near the river, I guess, and they put outhouses up and they had kind of a camp setup type there, and I don't know how long it was set up, but it didn't succeed, and they ended up basically bulldozing that whole area and returning it back to the way it was before. That didn't work, where they had a designated area to go. And now if they don't have something like that, they end up in the walkway or behind the willows or those places that they end up with the parks folks. So I don't know where they'd go. They obviously don't have a home. And so what the sanction is when we continue to deal with these people, I don't know what that would be because of the jail situation. And I don't know what you'd have to, if you enact an ordinance, we have to be able to enforce the ordinance. And that's what my biggest concern is. If you can't fine these people because they don't have any money. They're not going to be able to pay any fine. So they're going to be held in contempt for not paying a fine, and then they're going to be issued warrants, and then, they're probably going to be arrested. So, and I was just looking at some of the ordinances around the state. There's warnings where you go to the first time as a warning where they tell them to leave, and that generally is effective. But they go someplace else to a different location, and then you're back to, well, this is a warning for this location, and then this is a warning for this, and so you end up kind of moving these people around, and we don't have any problem doing that, but it's difficult, and if you're looking to make it where it's a fine or a criminal offense to be camping, then you're basically making a criminal issue out of this, and then we have to have the ability to incarcerate people. And number one, is it right to incarcerate somebody because they're indigent? And number two, do we have the ability to do it, even if, whether it's morally right or wrong, do we have the ability to do it logistically with the jail situation we have? So those are concerns that I have about. I don't know what the answer is. I see the concerns. I've talked to people who have concerns. I wouldn't want the same issues occurring in front of my house that these people are seeing. By the same token, I don't know what the sanction would be to violators if you go down there and they move to the next one and the next one, and we chase them all night long, eventually arresting them or issuing a citation. To me is just putting off an arrest because they're not going to pay the citation. So it looks like Bozeman's had issues, Missoula's had issues, there's Savannah, Georgia's had issues. There's a number of them that I was just looking online. I didn't see anybody that said they had any solutions. I did see where there was a bunch who had issues, so it's a difficult issue.
Thank you. Commissioner Healy, have you thought about what types of sanctions would be put in place through your ordinance?
Yeah, I was looking at consistent enforcement of the ordinances. Consistent enforcement of the ordinance, escalating penalties, like you were talking about, warning, citations, whatever, partnerships with law enforcement, for sweeps, and no trespass orders for repeat violators.
Yeah, and all of those things have been tried. The trespass order specifically, that has some weight to it, where you can say, listen, we've been told you can't be at this particular location, and we've told you X number of times, and so there is and that's an issue where we do it all the time with businesses. You're not allowed to go to certain businesses, and if they go to those businesses, then we can charge you with trespassing, and that's an issue. We have some teeth there, and those are enforceable, where if you're at a convenience store for the 5th time after you've been told you can't be there, we can arrest you on trespass, and those are effective. The issue I see is, though, if you have somebody that's maybe not trespassing, maybe it's a serial camper where they're in a tent somewhere, and we move them and they're in a tent somewhere, and we eventually either write them a ticket with some fine. Well, they're not going to pay that, so we're going to end up arresting that person because they can't pay it. And then when they are incarcerated for whatever, a couple days or maybe more, when they get out there in the same boat they were in, and we've eliminated the issue for a couple days or maybe 10 days, but now we're back to where we were before, and so that's frustrating to the public. It's frustrating to everybody.
I imagine that's really hard for the person that's stuck in that cycle as well.
Well, it's them. They don't have any means to get out of this situation they're in, and they don't have any means to pay a fine, and in all honesty, with the weather changing the way it is, some of these folks they're going to be the best place they can be is in jail for 10 days, and we're feeding them and taking care of them, and some of them intentionally do that, and others, they don't, but that's still, when they get out there, no better off than they were when they went in.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Sheriff Lester, for being here. Thank you, Chairwoman. And thank you, Director Frederickson. I do have a question for the two of you. I don't know, probably for the both of you. When you do run into these campers and some of these people over and over again, whom they may be, do you get them in contact with Action Inc. or some of the other groups to help them and try to find a remedy for them?
Yeah, most of the time they're already been in contact with either the mission or Action Inc. But, you know, Action Inc.'s waiting periods, as I understand it, pretty long. And some of these folks don't want to spend time at the mission just because they don't want to be in the mission. And so it's not like we can force people to go to the mission. So that it's just as a matter of preference, basically. But Action Inc. generally sees a lot of these folks throughout the week that we deal with on a regular basis too. So we're kind of dealing with the same group of people.
I kind of figured
Follow-up.
on, follow-up, please. I kind of figured on that one that you probably had. And there are some other organizations out there that will offer a lot of help to these in the expedition of time. I think I'll cut off and turn over to
Commissioner Callahan.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to comment on the people that you move on and you move on. And you and I both know that it's public drunkenness most of the time, between drugs or the alcohol or what have you.
Either that or mental health issues. Mental health issues seems to be the drunks will eventually, quite honestly, they'll sober up and they'll be okay at some point. The people who have serious mental illness don't get better without some kind of treatment. And so and a lot of them are both mentally ill and addicted to drugs or alcohol.
So we do have laws against public nuisance, and we do have public drunkenness. That's also laws. that we
Public
get-
drunkenness is not an ordinance or a law. Public nuisance, where if you're committing an act of disorderly conduct, so if you're blocking the egress to a business or you're passed out in the street in a condition that serves no legitimate purpose as the statute, you can be arrested for that, yes. Or if you're in the parking garage and we tell you to leave and you don't leave, that's trespass and we can take you to jail for those kind of things as well. But here's the thing, a lot of times we have people who simply have mental health issues and they're going up and down the street yelling and screaming at each other or themselves or whoever. Maybe there's nobody even there. And that is not a criminal matter. That scares the hell out of everybody. And we get calls on that, and we try to mitigate them as best we can, but it's not against the law to be mentally ill. So those are things that we have to walk a pretty tight line with.
Go ahead.
So,
Commissioner Healy, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. In talking with the neighbors up by Emma Park, there was a comment made a couple weeks ago that there had only been one incident in Emma Park. So the gentleman who approached me about this, his concerns with the increase of people camping in front of his house or in their backyards, went ahead and got the police report. In the last year, 85 police calls were made in that neighborhood alone, 85. Now, I am still getting calls and emails from people in other areas. This is just one area. So they're concerned that this is getting minimized as just mentally ill people who need a place to live. And these people are having to deal with this on a daily basis where their lives have been threatened or they're being, stolen from. And so
We're going to need to adjourn this meeting and reconvene at 7:30, after the committee of the whole meeting.